Hi, I'm Amy Rossman, Executive Director of Rodman for Kids, a nonprofit focused on empowering youth charities to build brighter futures for kids, and your co host of the Brighter Futures podcast.
And I'm Jane Lima, Senior Marketing and Communications Manager at Rodman for Kids, your other co host of the Brighter Futures podcast, where we tell the stories behind the impact and the people building brighter futures.
This isn't just a podcast about impact, it's about the people behind it, the communities who come together, the connections that drive change, and the shared belief that we can build something better for kids together.
On the Brighter Futures podcast, we will shine a light on the partnerships, programs, and people behind the impact because brighter futures don't just happen, they're built together. So, as we are now knee deep into Ride for Kids season, we want to talk about something very important. While the Ride for Kids is one day and it's an incredible day, it's an impactful day, the impact of our charity partner program and the work that our charity partners do is every day.
Today, we're joined by Tammy Mello from the Key program to talk about what participating in the ride actually means for her organization year round. But first, let me tell you a little bit about Tammy. She started in the child welfare field as a frontline child protection social worker 30 years ago. Recognized for her commitment, passion, and leadership skills, Tammy's career path has included more than 20 years in state service, managing programs in a local community based nonprofit, leading a membership driven advocacy program, and in January of 2022, embracing the challenge of becoming the president and CEO of the Key program. Key provides community based, in home, and congregate care support services for children and families across Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and New Hampshire. And prior to working at Key, Tammy served as the executive director of the Children's League of Massachusetts and executive director of the Governor's Council to address sexual assault and domestic violence. She served on executive committees of the Massachusetts Supervised Visitation Network and National Organization of State Associations for Children. She received the 2011 Commonwealth Citation for Outstanding Performance Award and the 2016 Massachusetts Commission on the Status of Women Unsung Heroine Award in recognition of her impactful work within her various positions. In addition to her work at Key, Tammy also currently sits on the boards of directors for the Rhode Island Coalition for Children and Families, the Child Welfare League of America, the Children's League of Massachusetts, and serves as assistant treasurer for the Providers Council, which is a Massachusetts Human Services Member Association. Tammy, welcome to the Brighter Futures podcast. Tell me when you sleep, because you are a busy and accomplished woman. That is incredible.
It's over a long period of time. It's over a long period of time. Every step of the way has really kind of set the stage for me from the next chapter in my professional career and my personal life. So
I love it. Well,
thank you
before
for having me.
we're so excited to have you. And before we dig all the way in, I'd love to just hear a little bit more about you and the work you all do at the Key program.
Sure. So, it's being at the Key program is really exciting for me. It feels, you heard about my background, and it feels like I've come full circle. So I started in direct care at Department of Children and Families very long time ago when I was 22 years old and fresh out of school and didn't know what the heck I was getting myself into. And so as you heard, my kind of professional trajectory led me into high level policy position and then decided to really exit the state service to work as to really kind of coordinate advocacy around the same issues that I just care so much about. And during COVID, ironically, I reconnected with a young woman who I was her DCF worker 27 years prior. And it reminded me of what was important in terms of the direct care agencies. And, I remember being a direct care staff person, like many of the folks that work in your charity partner organizations, and having really hard days. Sometimes it's really hard work and thinking, what am I doing? And I'm not sure if what I'm doing has an impact. And I realized in reconnecting with her that I really was interested in coming to Key to support people who do this work every day and remind them that what they do matters. Similar to what you all do with the charity partner programs, right? It's like a continual reminder of everything that we do and how we show up every day is important and has an impact in the lives of children, families, and young adults. So that's what led me to Key. And, Key provides, as you said, a continuum of support services, everything from congregate care, but really in-home community supports, really helping to strengthen families. We have an unbelievable trauma clinic at Children's Charter. We have a mental health clinic out in Western Mass, a behavioral health clinic. And we're really excited that we just started offering services to transitional age youth or emerging adults, as we like to call them. So we're always looking to expand what we do, but we also know what we do well, and we just try to kind of keep hanging on to that, and that's at our core. But I think it's important to state a lot of what Rodman Ride stands for every day around ensuring that everyone has access to resources because it builds resiliency and it helps with their well-being is what we do every day too. So it just feels like a really nice year-round partnership.
Yeah, there's so much alignment there. I really appreciate, and I don't think I realized how deep your background was in direct service, but it must mean so much to the incredible team you have at Key to have someone at the top who really understands what that work is like, because we all know it's really hard,
It's really
draining
hard.
work, and to have someone who really, like you said, can be there for them and has walked in their shoes, it must go a long way, for
Yeah.
you as a leader.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're amazing. They're amazing.
Yeah.
They are. The KEY program is one of the original
Mm.
charity partners here at Rodman for Kids, and we love seeing your team come out. Huge volunteer contingent that comes out. The same, social workers and directors that you're talking about come up, and they're setting up tables and working the start line. And I would love for you to talk a little bit about how, being a charity partner here at Rodman for Kids and a part of the Ride for Kids has really become, sort of part of your organizational culture at the KEY program.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as you said, I think when it first started, right, it was like really focused around an event, but it has really grown so much, not just in terms of our partnership with you all and with the other charity members, but it really has also brought together our organization. So we're a statewide organization, multi-state, really. So we're in Rhode Island and we're in Massachusetts. We do a little bit of work in New Hampshire, but year round, Kelly Farrier, who's always been kind of our lead champion around Rodman and Caroluti Spade as well, her partner in crime, we like to call them. They host a Rodman committee and it meets year round and it's representative of employees that work for us in every region and in every state. So it really has been an opportunity for us to really emphasize the importance of partnerships on behalf of children and families. And it's presented an opportunity for them to be able to kind of meet each other and work together and be creative in ways that they wouldn't necessarily be able to do outside of the context of their day-to-day work.
That's amazing. So, talking about partnership and just obviously, like we said, your original charity partner, what do you think the consistency in partnership outside of just, funds raised or financial
Mhm.
contributions, what does that mean for leadership and planning and kind of, again, going back to that organizational culture?
Yeah, I mean, it's very important. And when we talk a lot in the last couple years, particularly, we're seeing a lot of baby boomers, et cetera, a lot of retirements. I'm sure you all have seen it with your charity partners, right? Like a lot of turnover in leadership. And so we've been really invested a lot in not just professional development within our organization and allowing folks to have opportunities to do that in the context of their jobs, but also being able to do that in the context of, partnerships around not just fundraising activities on the day of ride, but we have folks organize events throughout the year. So I know that every Thanksgiving I am ordering pies from our Northeast folks because that's one of the fundraisers they do for Rodman Ride. And it's really funny, you have folks that work in our Westboro headquarters getting in their car, delivering pies all over the state. And we all know it's for Rodman, but it's brought this camaraderie and this ability to be able to elevate people's role in our organization in ways that is fulfilling when the job is really hard, right? And I will say it has also presented opportunity for us to network with other charity partners to strategize not just around the fundraising component, but some of the other challenges that we all share, whether you're a nonprofit that's small or large, we often have the same external pressures or challenges with philanthropic organizations. So it really has presented an opportunity for some folks to get involved and take on leadership. And I will say, even the changing of the date, I know that that was hard for lots of folks, but we really utilize it as an opportunity to say, this also gives us an opportunity to self reflect and pause and think, okay, what can we maybe think about and do differently? And so we're kind of reorganizing our committee and relooking at our leadership and really kind of presenting opportunities where we have a new golf committee. That's one of our biggest fundraising events.
Mhm.
And we have a whole different group of people running our next golf tournament as just an opportunity to really step up and take on that leadership role on behalf of something that we know is so important to kids and families and young adults.
That's incredible, and I think it really shows how the ride, like I said, it is just a one-day thing, but it impacts your organization year-round in addition to the charity partner program
Right.
and all of that. So it really, I'm glad to hear that the ride strengthens your relationships between, you and your supporters and your team. Have you seen, I know you joined the Key program in 2022. Have you seen kind of the partnership between Rodman for Kids and the Key program um transition over time? And again, I know that it's been
Yep.
Key is one of the original partners, so it's been a long time. But just in your experience, how have you seen this partnership sort of transition?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that you all have done an amazing job at really kind of providing more opportunities for us to learn and strategize, and come together really, both around how are we communicating? How can we utilize you to help us, support us, and thinking about how we're communicating what's going on, bringing together the community partners to learn from one another, even around policy related stuff, right? So I think that that really has elevated in the last several years, and it's been incredibly, incredibly helpful. And I would add, even the other opportunities that Theater for Kids has been really important for our kids. That's a great example of we often have young people that are able to participate that have never been to a theater,
Mhm.
and so I just think you're always helping us to think creatively as you all are thinking creatively, and creating the space for us to all come together has been really amazing. The other thing that I think is just fascinating and lovely, and it's something that really is something we value at Key, is the ability to have expand even the kids ride. We have volunteers that come. The volunteer the day before is like our big, everyone from our different regions come, but then some of their significant others come,
Mhm.
and they also volunteer on race day. So the ability to expand that to kids and really help teach young kids about the importance of civic engagement, which has kind of been lost over the years, I think is so incredibly valuable now more than ever. So I think that's been tremendous and wonderful in so many levels.
That's so nice to hear, and I think as a charity partner, the Key program does an incredible job of taking advantage of everything that we try to offer to all the groups we work with. So it's really nice to hear that that's resonating with you. Thinking about, you mentioned coming together with the other partners. How does being a part of that ecosystem of all the Rodman for Kids charity partners help to expand your network at Key?
Honestly, it's so funny. It's on multiple levels. So, like,
Mhm.
I'll have a conversation with Kelly, who had a conversation with someone at one of the meetings that you all have about someone that she connected with that either are doing similar work or presents an unbelievable opportunity for us to partner, even outside of Rodman. Same thing happened to me last year at the setup day. I was talking to a woman who was a new charity partner who was doing work with transition age youth at a time that we were waiting to begin doing our transition age youth work. And so it just also presented this amazing opportunity, just kind of by happenstance of a
Mhm.
being there and you all bringing us together to talk about making sure we know who else is kind of working in that network and in the communities that we're working in. So I think that's really fun. I will say one other fun Rodman very specific thing is a couple years ago we had a challenge with RFK Community Alliance. So Michael Ames and I made a bet on who could raise the most money in a period of time, and the loser had to bring the other one coffee and bagels, and we were posting on social media and just made it was just really, really fun. We had a blast with it. It was really helping us kind of achieve our goals. So I think that's another great way that we've been able to kind of really maximize the connections that we have made with the other charity partners through you all.
I remember this on social media, and You don't have to share, but can you share who won the challenge? That's
I
right.
am a terrible loser. There was no way I was losing.
I love it. I'm so glad to hear it. Let's add that to your bio. Let's add
Yeah.
and be Michael Ames and RFK
Yes.
Community Alliance, and I love it. That was
That's
awesome.
important. It that really calls back to me to just the spirit of the origins of where the RIDE and the Charity Partner Program began, when it was just, 5 or 6 CEOs or EDs, with our founder, Don Rodman, and they just worked together, and that collaborative
Mhm.
spirit was it was an organic thing, it's not something that was built intentionally. I think everyone really found, comfort in the community of being together and working together, so I love hearing that still carries through in all those fun little ways and happenstance ways.
And I think, Amy, that's so important, especially now with everything that's happening in the world. When we had different points in time over history where funding, gets called into question or there's funding cuts, there is a natural instinct to everybody kind of fighting for the same resources. But that has never been the case with the charity partners that come together around the ride. So I think you all have kept us really grounded in the importance of that work, especially when times are difficult, right? And so I just appreciate that we're always grounded in that way through the partnership with you all and with others.
I love to hear that. That makes my heart happy. I always love podcast days. I tell Amy, like we just walk away feeling so good about just the work that's going on because the news is always so sad and scary
Yeah.
and you don't want to you don't want to listen to it, but having a space where we can talk about all the good that's going on in the world
Mhm.
and the communities that are being built, and it just makes such a difference. So you've kind of shared a couple, but I'm curious if you have an impact story that really resonates with you about how the charity partner program has impacted your organization beyond ride day.
Sure. So, it's so funny because it really does impact us year round. And so some of the things we've been able to do because of Rod and Ride we've done trauma groups for kids that have been in foster care or who have had experienced serious trauma. But to be honest with you, I mean, we recently heard from a 17-year-old who was an outreach client of ours. And I think her story is really rises to the top for me. And so what she was really thankful for was the ability for her family to get food when they needed it, hygiene products when they needed it, and was so excited that we were able to help her get an outfit and shoes for a job interview because her goal was to get a job. And that may seem like small things, right? But when I think about, my kids or my nephews or myself, I never had to worry about
Mhm.
food on the table, roof over my head, clothes on my back, right? And so that's the stuff, and those are not things that state contracts pay for, right? So those are so important for children, for families, for young people, and most of us are lucky enough to not have to ever worry about those things. And to me, that's the most impactful, to have a 17-year-old say, "You were able to get me an outfit because my goal was to get a job, and you got me an outfit and you got me shoes, and by the way, you also got my family Christmas gifts and did recreational activities like an art class and going to Kennedy Lake Park," as an example. Like, those are things that many, many young people and even adults never had to worry about growing up. And so I think about Don and Marilyn, right? And Don came from humble beginnings, which is how he got into giving back because he recognized the folks along the way who kind of helped support his family and him. And that's how I see the work that you all do. And that's how I think we view the opportunity as a charity partner to be able to help the people that we are working with fill in those gaps of things that no kid or family should have to worry about while they try to achieve the things that they wanna achieve.
Yeah, I really appreciate that approach, Tammy, you're working with kids who have some big hurdles and deep challenges they're facing, but you're not forgetting the seemingly little stuff, which actually isn't little at all.
Mhm.
But you can't solve for the big stuff if you're worried about where your
Right,
next meal is coming from or what pair of shoes you're wearing to the job interview, right? We've
right.
gotta take care of those basic needs before we can dig deeper, so it feels good to know that being a part of this collaborative helps you to raise the funds you need to do that. It's
Yeah,
beautiful.
it's been great. I think, Amy, what you said is really important and really resonates for me. Like, the work that we're in, our particular agency, most all of the families we're working with are involved in a child protection system in one of the states, right? And so that is not something they volunteer to get involved with. It's often meeting family at one of the most challenging times in their lives. And I think that, while we really try to make sure we have the resources and the contracts and all of those things to meet their needs as it relates to what brought them to the attention of these child welfare agencies, we are always grappling with how do we make sure their basic needs are met? And we know that there are so many experiences and things that we can provide to kids that just give them the extra oomph, right? And so, an example I'll give you is the Celtics were in a playoff game 2 years ago, and one of our staff called and said, this is a long shot, but do you think maybe we can get tickets to a Celtics game for these young boys who were in one of our programs and they did not have the best week in their program. But I said, absolutely, just do it. And it was the emails we got from the staff on these four young men who are able to go to, that've never been to a professional sporting event.
Mhm.
The staff watching them in an environment that's not the normal day to day was just motivation that, like, yeah, we had a really hard week, but these are still young kids trying to sort out some of their things. So I think I think our leadership team and our agency wide management team are always keenly aware of how do we do just a little bit more, right? How do we make sure they have access to things that many other kids have access to? That's like the extra, whether it's a concert or it's a something else.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that's where the partnership with Rodman allows us the flexibility to just elevate our game a little. It's not, yes, basic needs are really, really important foundation, and then it helps you get to the harder stuff. But it's like, how do we go a step beyond? And oftentimes, our partnership helps us take that next step beyond that really is impactful to the young people.
Awesome, and you're letting the kids know, like, you belong in these places. You
Correct.
deserve these
Yep.
opportunities just like every other kid does.
That's
It's
right.
such an important message to send. Yeah,
That's right.
I love that you're doing that. It's so important. Before we wrap up, we have one question that we love to ask all of our guests. So, Tammy, what's a person, activity, or moment from your childhood that helped shape who you are today?
That's such an amazing question because it's fun. Like when you think about it, I ended up in this work and wasn't really sure how I ended up in this. Like I was like, oh, I'm gonna go help kids. Like I didn't know what I was doing. I was 22 years old. But it's not till you're an adult and you reflect back on your childhood that you're like, that was the thing, right? And so this is such a great question because it's not that I haven't thought about it, but it really resonated for me what that event was. So when my mother is one of 11 children and
Wow.
they grew up in poverty, and she had her oldest sibling passed away as a baby, and then she's the oldest girl in this family of 10 other siblings, right? Or nine siblings. So I had a relative, one of her siblings had a substance use addiction, and as when we were kids, and so I was in elementary school at the time, and my sister is 3 years younger than me. And what I realized as an adult is, like, all of a sudden, I had 3 cousins living with me who were also in elementary school, and my mom worked full time, my dad was a firefighter and worked full time, like, it wasn't like my mom was home and could just and they lived in another town. But I watched my mom recognize the importance of keeping my 3 cousins in the same school, connected with their family, and as an adult, having done this work, I thought, if it wasn't for her recognizing the importance of that, they probably would have ended up in foster care, right? And as the oldest girl, rallying her siblings to say, "We all have to figure this out," well, their parent gets support, and they did, and they were able to go back to their parent, and so I think that really, without knowing it at the time as a young kid, as an adult, I recognize how meaningful that was and how that reminds me of not every family has those kind of supports, right? But every family deserves those kind of supports. So how do we figure out how we're going to do that? That's not shaming families. That's just supporting them and lifting them up and recognizing that not everyone has access to the resources. Um, yeah, so that was the learning moment that I didn't really know in the moment that I was learning because I was sharing bedrooms with Evans was
with
like,
your
"What the heck
cousin.
is going on?"
And I bet your mom in that moment was just doing, what she had to do or what she thought was right to do and didn't realize she was impacting you in such a significant way too. What an incredible lesson to teach
And
you about helping others. Beautiful.
Yep.
I'm sure she was probably also thinking, "What am I getting myself into? How am I gonna now support
Mhm.
3 other
Right.
mouths to feed, 3 other people?" And you figure it out, and,
Yep. Yep,
props to
and
your
she
mom.
rallied the siblings, right? She
Yeah,
recognized, "I can do what I can do, but we all have to really surround these kids and support them," and that is true of all of us, right? Like, it used to be the
absolutely.
days, you all know, when we were kids, Mary Jane down the street from me would be yelling at me I didn't have a jacket on and was gonna call my mother and tell her. Like, that wouldn't happen anymore, right?
Mhm,
So, I
mhm.
feel like in some ways, we've gotta get back to how are we all have a role in lifting up kids and families, and some kids and families don't have the same access to resources. So we have a responsibility in that as best as we can.
Absolutely. We talk here about being a part of the village, right? Not everyone has the
Mhm.
village, so we can help build that village.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, Tammy, we like to end every episode with a question from a kiddo that your work in particular impacts. So, this question is from Aylin, who is 17 years old, who participates in one of Key's programs. A very sophisticated question, might I add, Miss Aylin. I'm so impressed. But so, Aylin would like to know, for riders who may never meet the kids that they are riding and participating in the Rodman Ride for Kids for, what would you want them to know about the impact that their support has on the youth that are served?
Yeah. I mean, I think when folks are participating in any kind of fundraising event, one of the challenges is it always feels gratifying when you can see the impact of what you're doing, right? So, building a playground or a library wing or whatever. And so, I think what's important for riders to know is it's more of a opportunity to reflect. So as they're riding their 20 something miles, right? Or even for the volunteers that are showing up there, you know, to either set up or to race day, like to really pause and take a minute and think about, similar to the question you asked me, something in their childhood that like they got excited about, an event that they went to, something that a bike that they really wanted, right? Like, what was the thing that meant something to them? Either a Christmas gift or a Hanukkah gift or something, or a moment of going to a theater event. Like, think of those things and think about when they're riding, they are providing opportunities for young people to be able to have that experience and those feelings of being able to get to do something that they may not have the resources ever to be able to do.
Mhm,
And I think sometimes, when people participate, oftentimes they love to ride and they want to fundraise, but it really does help center us when we think about those moments. And what if we couldn't do that? What if our family couldn't afford it or we didn't win that contest to be able to do something? Those are the things that they're riding for. They're riding for those opportunities for everyone that our charity partners works with to have those feelings of excitement and opportunity that young people may not necessarily have on their own, right? So I really think that's the most important as they're riding is to do some internal kind of self-reflection and
mhm.
think, "Okay, I'm doing this because I remember when I was 5 and my Uncle Jimmy showed up with my brand new yellow bike." And not every kid gets an Uncle Jimmy or a brand new yellow bike, right?
Right.
So that's kind of my I always say my challenge to folks,
I love
my
it.
challenge to them when they're riding is to have a moment and thinking about that and think, "I'm doing this and giving an opportunity for another kid to have that experience."
Thank you so much for chatting with us today, Tammy, and sharing about, the impact of being a charity partner and just the really holistic work you're doing for kids at the Key program. We love working with all of you and are so grateful for the difference you're making for kids in our community.
We will leave our wonderful listeners with a reflection question after today's episode. What is one small action that you have taken that ended up having a larger impact than you expected?
Thanks for listening to the Brighter Futures podcast. If this episode inspired you, consider sharing it or leave us a review. To learn more about the Ride for Kids, visit rodmanforkids.org. And to learn more about the Key program, visit key.org.